Thanks for meeting me. The janitor told me this spot had the most romantic view of the Holiday Inn across the street. Got milk? Why, yes, I have.
Wait a second. You guys didn't tell me there was an episode of American Dad where they all went to Philly? Well, I mean, mostly for Steve, but you know what I mean. And speaking of Philly, I will be attending Fan Expo Philly in a few weeks and presenting a panel and showcasing a new cosplayer too. But anyhow, hi, I'm Kitty Monk and I'm here to talk to you about American Dad. Or more specifically, who should Steve have ended up with? See, American Dad usually has those sitcom-y plots where stuff will happen, but status quo. And Steve's is he tries and fails when it comes to scoring, since status quo and all that jazz. But there are times when Steve nearly gets with a girl, or one of the few greats. And you have to wonder, outside of Akiko, just who should Steve have ended up with? Kitty, it's very obvious it should have been with Debbie. Catherine, this time last year, I made a video on Debbie, so go check that out. But in a nutshell, I 100% get why they did not work out, and why they actually work better as friends. He's too immature for her, and he had a tendency to put her on a pedestal at the expense of all else, and ignoring all else. When Debbie is the type who just wants others to listen to her for her, and hates being the center of attention. No, while I do like Debbie, I will not be including her in this video. Instead, I narrowed it down to 4 possible candidates. Candidates I feel are better on Steve's wavelength. And again, it won't be Akiko, I already made a whole video on her, but you know what I mean. There is Allie, Chelsea, Janine, and Shannon. Allie will be at the end, so we're going to start with Chelsea. Since Chelsea, I feel like they would have worked out the best long term, and it's very tragic how they fell apart. Because this is one of the few times where Steve has nobody to blame but himself. Like, no bad luck, no the people around him, no, this was 100% him. Chelsea is a girl in Steve's biology class during Virtual Insanity, and she's voiced by one of my all-time favorite actresses, Allison Hannigan.
They twirl around with shoes on.
Oh, that sounds like fun, Steve. I'm free whatever night that is.
Oh, great. You can have these, because I don't want to go.
Hey!
Sorry, I know Lily Aldrin gets the Peggy Hill treatment, but I do love her. Kinda like Peggy, I understand why people dislike her, but it doesn't really bother me outside of maybe like 1 or 2 moments. Like Marshall not getting a judge position because she's pregnant or something like that. In this episode, Chelsea has a not-so-subtle crush on Steve, and she makes it abundantly clear. She knows the same nerdy language he does, she always asks after him, not just because she's friendly with him, and even if she isn't attractive, she makes up for it with her cuteness and her dorkiness. Like, move over, Reggie. She's the one who's as cute as a button.
There's a lot about me you don't know.
I said it before and I'll say it again, she reminds me of myself when I was in high school. Like, I had a giant nest of curly hair and glasses just like that. I mean, I still do, but my hair is kind of longer now because I have to braid it for cosplay, so it's not as big and poofy as it once was. The problem was, Steve was too fixated on Phyllis to notice Chelsea was attracted to him, but he didn't know Phyllis was really an avatar being piloted by Stan in order to spend extra time with him. As a result, he hung out with Phyllis, but Phyllis treated Steve more like a little brother rather than a potential boyfriend, which ironically made it easier for him to gravitate towards Chelsea because he realized there would be no attraction with her.
You know, she's beautiful, but I think she just wants to be my buddy. Maybe she's not the one for me.
Well, maybe the one for you has been right in front of your face.
Now, this episode was about Stan realizing he was never really there for Steve, which again he tried to remedy by pretending to be Phyllis. The irony is that he could have been there for Steve and then some if he just let Chelsea go to the dance with Steve, or talked him up to Chelsea or vice versa, since they seemed like they'd be good together and there was a mutual attraction. Plus, he'd be doing his job as a father and as a wingman, or I guess in Chelsea's case, a wingwoman. But Stan blurts out something as Phyllis to get him to go to the dance, the words that Steve has always wanted to hear.
If you go to the dance with me, I'll
Feed the fish.
with you.
Okay!
Yep, only 2 people can feed the fish together. Usually a good thing we have hands. And he intends to go along with it BTW. Not like a, oh crap, I didn't really mean to say it, but now I guess I have to type of way. He 100% intends for this to happen.
I've already missed so much of Steve's life. This way I get to keep hanging out with him. Plus, I get to be there for his biggest milestone ever.
Ew, when I thought Quagmire was a horrible father. But Stan eventually comes to his senses and tells Steve through Phyllis to go after Chelsea.
There's a homely, kinky-haired beauty out there who'd just love to dance with you right now.
Snot wants to dance with me? Oh, wait, Chelsea. Got it.
Too bad Chelsea has self-respect, so Steve kinda blew his chance.
Turns out Chelsea didn't like that I went to the dance with Phyllis.
She's got way more pride than her physical appearance would suggest.
Again, she's like me in high school. I was loaded with self-respect back then. What happened to me? Good for her. The next candidate is Janine, who, unlike Chelsea, Steve didn't blow his chance with her because of him. No, this is the reverse Chelsea, because you must blame Stan for that. But honestly, I don't really think they would have worked out, like, long-term. He mostly just wanted to sleep with her, and the feeling was mutual. I mean, I guess Steve would have eventually scored with her, but that's a different story. In school, Steve befriends a girl named Janine, also in lab class, obviously, by primarily making her laugh.
He's a friendly guy. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
You are so cute.
To all potential SOs out there, us AFABs love it when you're able to make us laugh, no matter how stupid or dorky it is. It's like a little gift. I mean, that's how Roger Rabbit bagged Jessica, while that and Roger treats her like a person when Jessica is used to being objectified by humans or ostracized by Toons for not being funny because that movie is strangely complex, and Jessica has a strangely complex character when you really stop to think about it, but you get my rambling point. You kind of make a connection with us, and we don't want to let you go after that. Janine eventually takes Steve to her very expensive house, dang, he would have been set for life, and introduces him to her stern father, who seems stern, but he actually does mean well.
Janine likes you.
What?
Steve, I understand, young love. My daughter wants to be with you intimately, and I'm here to tell you that you have my blessing.
Oh God, I'm gonna pass out.
See, he wants Janine to be happy, and he doesn't care if Janine goes around spreading her legs and flying. He just wants to make sure she's with the right guy when she does it. And again, I 100% appreciate how he even told Steve to use protection, and even gave him a rubber to emphasize it. Like, to make sure it happens, but it's happening safely.
And son, safety first. And don't worry about the sheets. She's ridden horses her whole life.
Just saying, I know a lot of parents who hate the idea of their children being physical, especially in high school, but I hate to say it, they're kids, they're gonna find a way. The best thing you can do as a parent is make sure they're doing it safely and with the right people. And at least be glad they're telling you they have an interest in wanting to do it, because most kids would keep that a secret until something happened, i.e. a baby. And I say this as the bastard spawn of a teenage mother. Just saying, it at least shows they trust you enough to let you know what's going on, or what might happen. Oh my god, I hated the George Lopez episode where Carbon tries to go on the pill, which even if you aren't using it to not have babies is pretty good for like your health and all that, and her parents are like adamantly against it. Dude, George, your mother had a baby as a teenager and it ruined her life. At least be glad Carmen has common sense. The problem is that Janine's father needs to essentially background check Steve by making sure his family is up to par, and the best way to do that is to invite them over for dinner.
I only ask that you do it safely.
Okay. Janine? Janine?
Of course, I'll have to meet your parents first.
I guess that's a little iffy. I mean, I think him inviting Steve over and like vetting him is enough in my case, since Steve is not a reflection of his parents. And I guess if anything were to happen, it would probably happen at Janine's house, but I don't have teenage children who want to pump uglies with each other, so I guess I'm not really one to talk. The problem this time around is that Stan has become a bona fide crackhead, as we all know, and has run out of money to, you know, buy more crack. Oh my god, he's gonna break his mother's back! And Betty's a horrible woman, so good for him. And there isn't a train station he can go big at. So 1, he looks like Jack Skellington with jaundice, or if Jack Skellington stayed up for 2 nights straight writing a final paper. And 2, he resorts to stealing objects that he can possibly pawn to buy more crack. Oh dang.
My ATM card was rejected for insufficient funds. My necklace is missing. The TV is gone.
No, it's not. It's right there.
I don't think that's the TV, Stan.
He tries to steal Janine's dad's priceless Fabergé egg. And when that doesn't work because what pawn shop would possibly accept it outside of Pawn Stars, well...
$10. $10 and you can slap me with it.
What? Stan, you're on crack?
No. I will be as soon as this pervert pays me.
Stan, you idiot! It's like you actively want your son to stay a loser forever. So of course, thanks to Stan's terrible performance, Janine's father protects his precious flower and forbids Steve to do boyish things with her.
First you go down that hallway, and then you take a left. It's hurting the family.
I had a sure thing, old man!
Ow!
I think what's worse is that we later see in the episode that Stan does end up getting clean and getting his act together. But for one reason or another, he never went to apologize to Janine and or her father, which maybe it wouldn't help, but maybe it would've, who knows. There's always that chance. So Steve is pissed at him, and rightfully so.
I will hate you until the day I die.
Sure thing, kiddo. Camping sounds great.
The next candidate is Shannon, which ironically, Steve did end up with her at the end of the episode. It's just that the show didn't really have an excuse to say status quo wasn't broken or whatever, which we'll eventually see with Allie, so she basically disappeared into the void. See, Shannon meets Steve by total accident. His school is having an assembly on abstinence, and they're sponsored by a Christian charity. That's in a public school, okay? The charity believes that you have to commit to not doing anything naughty or piggish until marriage, and punishes the girls if they're led astray by having their dads act like chaperones that never leave their side ever.
We set a standard of manhood, and until they marry a man we choose, they pledge themselves to us.
So, it's kind of like you're dating your own daughter?
It's exactly like that.
Therefore, Shannon is pseudo-dating her dad without actually dating her dad. It's not weird, totally. Thank goodness my dad went out for cigarettes before I was born, and now I get to run around in a little miniskirt. I mean, Steve himself can understand. He basically raised a girl from a baby to take her to prom with the express purpose of losing his virginity to her. But anyway, Steve is introduced to her because the entire school knows he's the only one of them who hasn't done it.
What sucker's gonna go for...
Ah! I got a virgin for ya! Yeah, Mercs! Get him!
I find that very hard to believe considering there's a prodigy child in your class and she's a literal child. Shannon meets with Steve afterwards and says how happy she is that he attended this probably mandatory assembly, but she feels like they have a connection. And I have to argue, yeah, they are pretty cute together.
You know he prefers to go by Deathstroke the Terminator, although his real name is Slade Wilson.
And don't forget about those haunting Vietnam flashbacks.
I like how Shannon is dorky, but for whatever reason, likely because of her father or because she doesn't get out much, she doesn't really express it, except around Steve. And even when Steve says like, oh, I'd be happy to take a look at what you're doing, she's still really nervous. It's cute.
You probably don't want to read it. You were just being nice.
No, I'd love to.
You really don't have to.
I honestly would love to read it.
You know what? Forget it.
Just give me the damn play!
Like, for instance, she's writing her own Deathstroke fanfic, aka Slade Wilson, since kid networks don't like to use the word deaf or the word stroke for some reason.
We have study group with our dads, movie night with our dads. Sometimes we skip the movies and just go to the woods to kind of hang out.
And you guys know me and how I feel about fanfics. They aren't embarrassing things you should hide. They're really great sandboxes for writing, and I write my own constantly, but nobody will ever read them because they're written for me. I totally get her here. Shannon invites Steve to meet with the rest of her youth group, where, if you remember from South Park what a purity ring is, well, what if they did that but they had a whole ball where you pledge yourself to your partner, which due to your age is likely your father. Steve, oh my god. Not only will you be with your father 24/7, you're basically going to be doing nothing for the rest of your teenhood but watching Grey's Anatomy. At least Dr. House takes place in New Jersey. Since Stan is too squeamish to give Steve the talk, he decides that if Steve joins the youth group, he won't need the talk because he'll be his boyfriend, I mean chaperone.
My son, will you make me the happiest daddy in the world and date me?
Oh my god, oh my god,
Say
oh my
yes.
god.
Oh, please say yes, Steve. If you join, we can hang out all the time.
I mean, Stan is good with this. Remember the last time he got squeamish about giving Steve a talk, that he ended up going on national television and talking about celibate sock puppet, aka Ubi's Mennonite cousin? We all need a little celibate sock puppet in our lives, now more than ever. Steve is reluctant, but he's told that if he does, he and Shannon can be around each other more, since they'll obviously have dates and everything.
Higher.
Whoa!
Did you hear that guy fart across the room?
At one point, Shannon and Steve fool around, as in just acting like normal teens, away from their fathers, and Shannon confesses she actually feels suffocated because her father never leaves her alone, and all she wants is to be with Steve.
I wish you were my dad, you know, so I could date you.
Oh.
What the hell is this?
What? Oh my goodness, what teenager wouldn't want to be around their father 24/7, 366, rather than, you know, people their own age? I mean, this is probably what created Lord Dominator. Because, fun fact, she is voiced by Noelle Wells, who is also the voice actress for Lord Dominator, which I don't know if the crew knew that going in, but that adds so much to Shannon for me, and this is now my canonical backstory for Lord Dominator. But to appear noble in front of the other dead, Stan ends up forcing Steve to go to a version therapy camp, where through Clockwork Orange techniques, he is brainwashed into hating doing it.
I'm so glad you're here. Do you like my dress?
The time of the purity ball comes, and Steve is thoroughly brainwashed. Stan finally realizes the error of his ways and lets Steve and Shannon get physical.
I think there's been enough talk.
I can't hold much longer, son. Jump kick!
Cool, right? Well, what's the problem? Well, there is no problem. Honestly, Shannon would have been the best girlfriend to Steve here, I feel, because it feels like there was no reason for the episode to have either dump the other.
But Dad, thanks for protecting me and Shannon back there.
I should have all along.
At least with Christy White, they had her move away, and she did say, like, oh, I want the world to be my oyster, implying she didn't want to be with Steve, which I 100% get why they did that. Here, there is literally no reason, and even if Stan implied they did get physical, because the episode implies they did get physical, every episode afterwards acts like this never happened, and Steve is as pure as the driven snow. They don't even say something like Shannon's parents moved her away because of what Stan did, or because Shannon grew up in a repressed household, she had no clue just what doing it was, so they held hands, and to her that was sinful. She just disappears for no good reason, which really annoys me. Obviously, they need to have status quo be in effect, but give a good reason for it. It kind of reminds me of Akiko. Again, somebody I think Steve should 100% end up with in terms of dating, but many of you told me I neglected to talk about Allie the first time, so here we go. We finally got to Allie and smushed a love story. We're kind of like the other candidates. I get why she won't make any further appearances, despite how much chemistry they had, since status quo and the fact she has a high-profile guest star, that being Patty Harrison. Oh my god, she was in Very Busy Deborah's? But I don't like the reason why they gave. This episode is one of those experimental American Dad episodes, I'd argue, where they try to do something a little different, even if it's just as simple as a framing device, which honestly is more than Family Guy, where the most they'll do differently is just a bottle episode that means nothing, except for the actual bottle episode where Lois steals from an Airbnb, which I actually do like, or 3 little mini episodes in one episode that all have a common theme. In this episode, we open with the idea of love, where couples try to share what love means to them by sharing the story of how they met, like how Stan and Francine call back to Francine's flashback.
We were hoping you could tell us how you two met.
Us? He picked me up on the side of the road. Anyway, back to Milk Girl.
That is true. But who cares about a little thing like that? Stan is going on an overnight field trip to Philly as part of his AP Philadelphia class, which might sound strange because honestly this does not exist in real life. You'd probably have to go to like AP US history for this, but Philly has a bunch of history to it, and it was originally the nation's capital. Go watch Hamilton on why it's not anymore. I could honestly buy that being a class, even if Steve likely has to pay $600 for a class that teaches to a test, whether or not he passes said test. Thank God I grew up in the inner city and we got enough support at the time that I was able to take like 5 AP classes and not have to pay for it.
The overnight class trip!
To the most romantic city in the world.
2 nights, no parents. You're going to literally fall in love in the city of love.
But holy crap, an overnight field trip to Philly? At his age? I am so jelly belly. Don't you know how expensive Philly is? That's why I only go there for cons. But I'm not jelly Steve is going on an overnight field trip without parents. We went on overnight field trips in high school constantly, but they were always connected to colleges I never actually went to. Except Rutgers, strangely. Yay, Rutgers, yay. It's totally not like those 2 camp counselors from the Addams Family. No, Rutgers. Everyone is excited to go to Philly, and everybody has a very high opinion of this little city. Hey, that rhymes. Since it's like romantic or like Paris or whatever.
Guess who just transferred into AP Philadelphia? I heard you guys were going to the U.S. Mint, and I've always been super curious about what money looks like.
It's fine for me, but I do like Geno's. Last time I went to Philly, it was last year for Fan Expo, and I took the subway, and there was a used needle rolling around on the floor. I'm from Newark, I frequent New York and D.C., and I have never seen that happen ever. Steve and his parents are ecstatic that Steve will not have parents on this trip, since this means he can finally land Milk Girl, a romantic false lead who is in AP Philly that Steve has a major crush on.
She sits in the front row of my AP Philadelphia class, puts her backpack on the left side of her chair, and she drinks a ton of milk.
But at the same time, what's important to note, and which will be important later, is that Steve knows absolutely nothing about Milk Girl, not even her name. All he knows is she's in his class and she drinks a ton of milk. That tracks. I'm terrible at names too. But I will say that unlike most of the examples in this video, I am very impressed that Steve and Francine are like supported this time around, like to the point of including Milk Girl in their wills.
We've actually never met Milk Girl, but we've adjusted our wills to include her.
Good for a girl they know nothing about, eh? All they know is she drinks a ton of milk, hence her name. Well, I mean, good for her. She probably isn't lactose intolerant. Or if she is, she's a masochist like you. Shut up, Catherine. You know it's not my choice. You know damn well that in real life, most cats are actually lactose intolerant. And if you have a cat in real life, please do not feed them milk. That's like a stereotype which will actually kill them. And even if I myself am not a cat, because I'm not a furry, I am lactose intolerant. But why am I gonna let a silly thing like that stop me from living my best life? I mean, I love Ritas. All I'm saying is, you do you. But okay, back to the episode.
And you can catch me up on other Philadelphia stuff, like how a cream cheese became a city.
Excellent question. I googled, and apparently Philadelphia cream cheese is one big fat lie. It was actually invented in New York, in Chester, in 1872. Philadelphia cream cheese got marketed as such because in 1880, they tried to market it as being from Philly because at the time, Philly had a reputation for high-quality dairy farms and the creamiest cheese-based products. So it was like saying, buy this, you'll get the best of the best by buying our cream cheese. So next time you go to the store and you buy Philadelphia cream cheese, know that it should be called Chester cream cheese, since the dude who made it was from Chester, New York. But that's not as catchy, is it? Who cares about alliteration? The next day at school, we meet Milk Girl, and Steve, no offense, she seems really out of your league, like a preppy girl. She kind of reminds me of that young Republican chick that Chris was into in Family Guy.
She's here, OMG. Don't look. She's perfect, just like you said.
There's just something so sweet about her.
But we discover that the trip is led by Principal Lewis and his buddy Marty. And Marty is not a noob, just remember that. He's freaking lit. Thank goodness! He won't yell at me for walking in the street at Syracuse. I'm sorry, there was too many people and I was getting, overwhelmed. Over peeing in the men's bathroom at a Chick-fil-A after they made that bathroom ban. Well, I'm sorry, it was North Carolina and I wanted to protest.
This is my boy, Marty. Normally, I'd have some teachers or parents chaperone, but lucky for you, Marty is in town, and he's looking to get out of town.
I want Lewis as my chaperone. You know what? Screw it. I want him as my admin. Since some episodes, like Award Show, I do hate him when he's admitting because he can be a jerk to the teachers. But between you and me, most admin are like Lewis and they just don't want to admit it, so they essentially micromanage and talk at length during stupid PD days. Or they taught for 3 years, but teaching just wasn't for them. So they became overpaid administrators. So yes, I 100% get Lewis being an admin in spite of what he does and in spite of what he says.
I see, Milk Girl's little friend. You know what? It looks like you're all here. If you're here, just get on the bus.
Again, I want Lewis as my admin so badly. He is so laid back. And most really aren't. Most of them are the spawn of that one cartoon guy from the new Doctor Who episode. Also, would you believe me if I told you this was the line that got me to review the episode? Steve tries to sit next to Milk Girl on the bus, but gets blocked by her friend, and literally falls back to Allie.
Don't freak out, it's vintage. This fox has been dead for 70 years. I wear it to remind me of my grandma. She was a stone cold fox.
No, first impression of Allie, I actually like her. She's cool, she's vintage, I love cool and vintage. Vintage can't be as easily replaced, and it carries more memories, so it's more vital to me. Plus, they make for good stories. Plus, unlike Steve's other love interests, Allie is kind of the opposite of him. And I'll be honest, I am a sucker for opposites attract. I feel in real life they don't really work out because you don't really have that much in common, and after a while that will get on your nerves, but in a cartoon, it's really fun to explore. She's aloof, quiet, and most importantly, she believes that love doesn't exist. At best, it's kind of like Rick Sanchez where she thinks it's a chemical reaction that makes animals breed.
I can't believe it! I was supposed to be sitting next to a girl up there. I had the perfect plan. We were gonna fall in love on this bus.
Oh god, Steve talks to people on long trips on buses. Steve, it's a 3-hour drive from DC to Philly. Since I use the CIA as a starting point on Google Maps, well, honestly, it was more like 2.5 hours, but I assume you're gonna stop at least once, and there's also traffic. Let Allie sit there with her chili peppers and her vintage jacket, you idiot. But what I like most about Allie is how she challenges Steve, and later how Steve challenges her. I like how the episode is even-handed like that. Each makes good points. Steve is idealistic when it comes to love, and he thinks he and Milk Girl are destined to be together. But as Allie points out, he doesn't even know her name. How can you love somebody if you don't even know their name?
Girl.
The girl drinking milk.
What's her name?
What's in a name? Shakespeare.
So you don't even know her name?
You're distracting me.
Don Quincione and Dulcinea would beg to differ. Plus, honestly, a lot of what he's doing to Milk Girl can make him come off like a creepy stalker. And if you're a girl, you do not like creepy stalkers. But sister, you don't know the half of it. I already talked about the whole Will thing, or how they replaced their pool with milk.
Dad drained our pool and filled it with milk. What are we supposed to do with a pool full of milk, Steve?
Steve refuses to admit it, so he eats a ghost pepper and makes a fool of himself in front of Milk Girl. I hear milk actually helps. And hey, at least you made a good first impression, since Milk Girl now wants to see you. Also, Roger is a statue in Philly. He doesn't really add anything to the episode, and he could be cut out otherwise, but I guess he does add music. They do have a Roger quota to make, I feel, because I think Roger's the only character in the show who appears in literally every single episode. Even in Lost in Space, he was the only Smith outside of Haley to appear in anything other than a flashback. Steve meets Milk Girl on the roof of the hotel they're staying at and tries to properly ask her out.
Don't know you, but I feel like I do. And I hope you won't mind me saying so, but I love you.
Dude, your parents aren't here and Principal Lewis is in charge. Go further. But Milk Girl confesses a secret. She doesn't like milk? No, you freaking idiot. Just play the clip. She's actually Reese Witherspoon.
And you do know me, and you do love me, because I'm Reese Witherspoon.
What?
You can't just let him down gently or do what I do and lie and say that you're a lesbian? The last one works 2 out of 3 times, except for that one time at ConnectiCon, but that dude was not with the con, he was a creep. But as it turns out, yes, she really is Reese Witherspoon.
You single-handedly greenlit Election 2 Omaha Drift.
Wait, do you even like milk?
I hate milk. I'm just a really good actress.
Yes, you are. You were in King of the Hill. Next clip.
How did I meet Babe? Well, actually, it's a great story. How did we meet, babe?
Actually, that's a good question. I don't think they ever actually explain it. And honestly, I think that'd be a good episode. Even in Stan Knows Best, we never figure out. They were already dating. Even in the pilot, like, Jeff knocks on her door to go ask if she wants to go out. How did Haley know that he was the one for her? Mutual friends? I would love to know the story. We have Francine's flashback. At free breakfast the next morning, aka the best part of most hotels, Steve gets more bad news. He's getting eggs thrown at him, and Marty in the bus is missing. Oh no!
Marty is missing! So is the bus. Here's a napkin with some places I think we were at. Pass it around, take a photo, commit it to memory, whatever you have to do.
As a result, the whole trip itinerary is cancelled. And worse yet, they had to implement the buddy system, meaning Steve is paired up with Allie all weekend.
Standing next to is your partner for the rest of the trip. Do not separate. Do not lose each other. I'm still rolling my face off.
Oh god, I forgot Lewis is an admin. Of course he's into Think Pair Shares. At least he canceled the trip to Betsy Ross's house, since I hear that's another big lie, but I already prattled on long enough. While Steve is insistent on finding Marty, Allie doesn't care.
You have high expectations, and you think things matter. But nothing matters.
If we don't find Lewis's friend, we'll get F's in the class. That doesn't matter to you.
Honestly, she has a point. Lewis is so crazy, and they have their parent who can easily call him out on his crap. I feel like he's gonna get drunk and even forget he, said that. Or once they find Marty, he'll be like, you know what, y'all pass.
Oh no! Gum! There's gum on me! Who would do this?
You know, I already told you guys about the needle. I mean, could I tell you guys about how, 5 people would say they liked my cosplay and then asked for money? I mean, I'm from Newark, and I'm kind of used to that, especially when I go to the train station. That was just really weird. But Allie reveals that she knows Philly like the back of her hand because she is from Philly, and therefore, yeah, she knows it like the back of her hand. I just said that. But as this is an episode about love, well, everybody has to end up with somebody but Steve. Stan gets a girlfriend at Gino's in the form of Tammy from Bob's Burgers.
Is you sit in a room waiting for God to tell you if you were a big enough Phillies fan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I feel like I could tell you anything, Snotter.
You know, I think she does have a name, but she reminds me of Tammy from Bob's Burgers, so I will just call her Tammy from Bob's Burgers. And wait, Philly people have accents? I never noticed. I mean, sometimes I feel like I have an accent, like I say radiator instead of radiator, but that's about it. Tammy from Bob's Burgers says she will help Snot, and honestly, I wish the pair ended up together. Again, I get why they didn't, but sorry, I don't ship him and Steve, since I feel like they work better together as friends, and I will eventually get to the future episode between them.
And I'm all alone.
Oh, don't cry, dude. I'll help you. Whoa! I'm taking the rest of the day off.
Since nobody can find Marty, Allie invites Steve out for lunch to a spicy restaurant. Oh my god, his poor toilet.
Do you want to leave?
We can't just leave. It will look like I'm upset. and I'm not. I'm actually really happy for him.
But as Allie reveals, she knows the dude there. He's her ex. Oh, you know what this means? She trusts Steve enough to be vulnerable around him, and she actually cries, kind of. And I suppose that to help Allie, he eats a pepper for her.
Steve, don't! That's a Carolina Reaper!
Dude, seriously, I already went over everything they did for Milk Girl. I went over the will, I went over the pool, I went over the cereal. And remember, this was before he even knew her name. He'll accept you. Allie gives him her code in gratitude. Oh my god, defying gender norms. They kiss to a song that wouldn't be out of place in Juneau, and Steve tells his family that Milk Girl is no more.
Oh, you must be freezing.
No way. I love this dress. It's nice on me.
Don't be an idiot. Take it.
I should do something jacket related. Should I plug in Jackie? Okay, I'll plug in Jackie. Okay, I guess go on Etsy and buy the leather jacket I always wear to cons. That's usually how you'll be able to spot me at a con if I'm wearing Jackie. And yes, he has a name, and it's Jackie. We even gave one to Brandon Rogers. He named it Jackie Tan. Allie says the kiss was a mistake, and Steve reluctantly agrees.
Right. I mean, that's not us. That's not who we are. It's obviously didn't mean anything, so I think we should just forget it. Plus, it was unprofessional. You agree.
Lewis gets pissed that Marty is still nowhere to go, because I guess Marty can't just call him or text him, and he ups the consequences of not finding him.
And I'll also kill you. I'll start killing one of you every 5 minutes until he is found. If you don't find him by 9 a.m., you're all expelled!
What? That's worse than being killed. At least if you're killed, you can't be around to find out the consequences. But at least Lewis is giving kids consequences instead of telling teachers to remember their why. Steve runs and cries, and I guess because of the pepper, and in the process of nearly dying, he finds Marty. Yay, he passed!
Dispatch, we got a kid smooshed between two vehicles. He looks more jacked up than the Philly Fanatic tattoo my cousin Donovan gave me under the bleachers at the Mummers Parade. Over.
Oh, my friend does that one. I should ask her if she has seen this episode. Steve says that he likes Allie. Allie confesses back. Yay, a relationship, right? Well...
He's a 10th grader, and I'm still in 9th grade, so I'm not allowed to make eye contact with her in school, but in a couple of years... we'll both be upperclassmen.
Okay, I don't like this hand wave, at all. Yes, I know they can't feature Allie in future episodes because of her voice actress, and I know something was going to write her off, but this is a pretty lazy hand wave, especially to what they were building up to. Besides, wasn't Milk Girl a 10th grader? That makes even less sense. Steve wanted to be with her, and his parents were 100% on board.
As you all know, she's a 10th grader.
Ooh. I think a better idea should have been that Allie's in the accident, and because of that, she moves back to Philly. For whatever reason. Or maybe Allie still doesn't want to admit that Steve changed her mind, so she pushes him away for his own good. Or maybe, as bad as it is to say, maybe she's in the accident and it kills her. Or maybe Steve helps her get back together with her ex. Or since Lewis brought up that he'd expel you if you didn't find Marty, maybe he expels Allie because she was the only one who did not want to find him. I don't know. There's way more they could have done. I am so angry, I'm going to stop this video. Plus, I also don't know a better way to end it. Anyhow, bye!